Alright, the Game Awards just took place and we did in fact get a brand new trailer for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so we're going to be breaking that down in this video, and then we're going to take a look forward up to the release of Rebirth and figure out realistically how many more trailers are they going to drop on us before the game comes out. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button, and if you want to stick around and you're new here, you can subscribe as well. I greatly appreciate it. So very quickly before we get to the Final Fantasy VII trailer, I gotta shout out one of the things that I was hoping to see from my hopes and predictions video. We saw it tonight, a new piece of DLC for God of War Ragnarok called Valhalla. It releases next week, I believe on December 12th, and it is free. And it's said to be a rogue-like piece of DLC, which is super cool. And in this day and age when companies are charging an arm and a leg for DLC, they're charging for basic upgrades, it's super cool for a company like Sony Santa Monica to put out this piece of DLC for free. I loved Ragnarok. It was such an incredible game. And if you're somebody who only plays Final Fantasy and you watch my videos purely for Final Fantasy, I would urge you to check out God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. Two incredible games, and getting to just focus on the gameplay with Kratos and kill some monsters and do some cool stuff. And I assume the story part of this DLC will help bridge the gap maybe to what happens in the next God of War. Maybe Kratos and Mimir are stuck in this weird time loop area, which is why it's a roguelike, and they gotta find a way to get out. So I had to bring that up real quick. It looks awesome and I cannot wait to play it. And then the second shout out, we didn't get a Dino Crisis, but we did get a dinosaur survival game in the form of Jurassic Park Survival, and it looks exactly like Alien Isolation, but instead of Alien, it's Jurassic Park and dinosaurs, and it looks super cool, super scary. We got to see some alpha footage, and I will definitely be checking that game out when it hits, because, you know, I love a good scary dinosaur game. So that should be fun. And also, I have to give a big shout out to Sega. They were teasing this big announcement for the Game Awards. Nobody knew what it was, and it turns out Sega is returning to form. They're bringing back all of their classic franchises that they're known for: Shinobi, Jet Set Radio, Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, and Streets of Rage, and more. Unfortunately, Virtua Fighter was not on that list, but if they're bringing back all these other games, then I would assume Virtua Fighter should follow, hopefully sometime next year. But it's really awesome to see Sega go back to what made their company so great, and you know, the games that I grew up with, and returning to that top shelf awesome form that was Sega in its prime. And then of course, before we get to Final Fantasy VII, we gotta talk about the Final Fantasy XVI DLC, which they shadow dropped on us. The first one being called Echoes of the Fallen, which is available now. That's a shadow drop, so that's a really quick turnaround from having, you know, 16 come out in June, and now the first piece of DLC is by the end of the year, which is nuts. And the second piece of DLC is called The Rising Tide. Both of these DLCs seem to feature two new characters. I don't know their names, they didn't mention them in the trailer, but there are some new enemies. There's a boss battle in this really crazy looking arena with an enemy called Omega Anios, I believe is the name. There's also going to be the Tonberry King, and then the one thing I wanted, and a lot of people wanted, a battle with Leviathan in our Ifrit form. It looks super cool, big waterfall arena, but I don't know if the Leviathan battle is available now. I think that's going to be in the second piece of DLC, which hits in the spring of 2024. But again, all of this seems to be taking place not in that Waloed section like we speculated, but towards the end of the game before you go fight Ultima, which is kind of a bummer. This kind of feels like maybe it should have been in the main game, but maybe they figured we're going to run out of development time, so we have to take all of this end game stuff out and make it DLC, which, if that's the case, that kind of sucks. So now that those shoutouts are out of the way, let's get to this Rebirth trailer, which we will be pulling some info from the Square Enix blog as well. And full transparency, I almost thought about not covering this trailer because it is kind of spoilery. There's a lot of big story stuff that happens in this trailer, certain big plot points. So if you're someone who's very sensitive to potential spoilers, you might want to click away from this video. But we're going to break down this video and just discuss what we saw. So again, it opens up with Zack in his battle against these Shinra soldiers defending Cloud. We see a bullet flying towards him. We don't know if it's going to kill him, and I don't know if this is like Zack's timeline when we see him survive, or if this is recounting what happens to Zack in the main timeline where he unfortunately does die. But there is some VO from Zack by saying, "I'm feeling every single bullet," which makes me wonder if now that the whispers are gone and he's defying fate, maybe these bullets that were meant to kill him are not in fact killing him, they're just flesh wounds. So that's a really interesting piece of dialogue from him there. Next, we see the man himself, Bugenhagen Boogs. He's with Barrett in Red 13. I'm not sure what area they're in. There's like this big storm going on. It almost kind of looks like the Cave of the Gi. There's a huge monster in front of them that they're getting ready to battle, and Bugenhagen warns them, do not underestimate this foe. Which then cuts to a scene of Vincent and our party. Everyone's in their battle poses, mind you, because they don't know who this guy is yet. And Vincent is asking Cloud, who is your foe? And he responds by saying, it's Sephiroth. It then cuts to Zack in his timeline talking to Biggs, the presumably only survivor of Avalanche. And Biggs is questioning, why did I survive and everyone else died? And we see a poster, a wanted sign of all of the Avalanche members with their photos crossed out except for Biggs. And Barrett and Tifa are also crossed out. So I'm wondering if in this timeline, like we saw in previous trailers, Barrett and Tifa did not survive. We don't know what's happened to Red 13. We do see Aerith later on, but she is unconscious. So there's a lot going on there, and it is cool to see that Zack is going to team up with Biggs in his timeline and maybe form a new version of Avalanche to try and figure out what the heck's going on. Because even Biggs is wondering, like, this isn't right. This isn't where I should be. How come I survived? So they're clearly catching on to the idea that more is happening than what should be happening. They also do show a Loveless poster right next to that wanted sign, so cue the Genesis conspiracy theories. We then see some exploration footage of Calm, Junon, the cargo ship, the haunted hotel, the Corel prison, and Rocket Town. And what's cool is we do see Madam M make a return. She's on that boat, or this could be the Gold Saucer where she's at, I'm not quite sure, but she's flashed on screen very briefly, and she was a really great new character in addition to 7 Remake, so having her come back is really great. And then there's some very important monologuing going on here from Cloud, and he's talking about how he doesn't quite know who he is. He's often forgetting things that everyone else is remembering just fine, and he knows things that he has no right of knowing. So Cloud is even starting to put two things together, like, my memories are not my memories. I'm remembering experiences that I did not have. So that big mental break that Cloud experiences, it's starting to form. Those walls are starting to have cracks, and that dam, that flood of Mako is going to come rushing through. We then cut to Tifa's voiceover telling him that it's okay. He has saved her once before, and now it is her turn, which of course alludes to Tifa literally helping Cloud put his mind back together. We do see a quick flash of Tifa and Kate Sith doing their synergy attack, which involves some big tornado spin, which looks super cool. And then we are introduced to the leader of the Corel prison, the guy in the green suit, Solemn Gus, and he is questioning our party, and in particular, he's pointing at Cloud. We then cut to Dio and Cloud about to battle each other in what looks like a makeshift sumo ring, which could be the new version of the Battle Square stuff. And then we see the one character I've been wanting to see, Sid. He looks fantastic. He sounds great. He looks very true to his original illustration that we saw in the OG FF7. It's very much dead on. If you ripped that version of Sid and made him a modern day 3D character, that's what you would have. He looks age appropriate. He sounds cool, and he just wants to help out Aerith and the party, and he's asking them, is there anything that I can do to help? I want to help. And up next, we have our montage of summons, starting with Titan, who has this really cool looking Asura's Wrath type of redesign with his armor. It's very rock-like, and he's going to be focusing primarily on those AoE type of attacks. Secondly, we see the gorgeous Phoenix, which of course, like the original FF7, will help revive fallen party members. And then of course, the final attack from Phoenix, Rebirth Flame, will also heal the party as well. And last but not least, we have Bahamut Arisen, the newest version of Bahamut, who kind of resembles, I think it was Neo Bahamut in the original Final Fantasy VII, the Bahamut that had the red scales and skin. And I'm curious to see if there's going to be more versions of Bahamut in Rebirth, or if they're going to save a third version for part 3. So it's super cool that we're going to get this new version of Bahamut, which is staying true to the OG FF7. There was Bahamut, Bahamut Zero, Neo Bahamut, all of these cool iterations, which is awesome. We then see Barrett and Dine having a conversation. Dine is clearly down on his luck. He's not doing well, and he's very ashamed of what's going on. And he even tells Barrett, you know, like, do you want Marlene to see me the way that I am? And of course, all of the stuff that happens between Barrett and Dine is heartbreaking. And it's one thing to read it in text from the original game, but to have it fully voiced with some really incredible graphics and animation, it's going to be very heartbreaking, even more so this time around with, you know, how that story arc actually ends. We then see Zack in Aerith's home talking to Marlene. We got a comatose Cloud in the background, and Marlene is talking to Zack, and she's telling him, promise do not tell her this when she wakes up, meaning Aerith. But she says that when Aerith wakes up, a big scary man is going to kill her. Obviously, spoiler alert for those who do not know, but yes, there's a specific character in the game that does, spoiler alert again, murder Aerith. And I'm pretty sure she's alluding to Sephiroth. But it's interesting to see that Zack is going to make his way back to Aerith. He's making his way back to her house. Aerith's mom is probably going to look after Marlene, not only in that timeline, assuming Barrett is dead in that timeline, but also Cloud and Aerith. And then after that, we get the music video portion of the trailer, which is what we saw at the Game Awards initially. And this is a very beautiful song. It's the main theme of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, composed by the legendary Nobuo Uematsu and sung beautifully by an artist that goes by the name of Lauren Allred. She sounded amazing. Not a single bad note from her. She killed it. If you haven't watched it, I recommend you at least watch this part or listen to it. Because again, there are some even bigger spoilery stuff going on in the music video portion, but it's all mostly Gold Saucer focused with heavy emphasis on the Loveless play. And again, the Square Enix blog points out that different things can happen in this play depending on your relationships with your party members and the theater goers. Script changes can happen. Different characters can take over different parts. So it seems like the Loveless play is going to be really dynamic in Rebirth. And again, they really focus on Cloud's bond level with the party members and how specific decisions will reap specific rewards, and how you might want to think a little bit harder before you make a decision because it could change specific things within that area of the game. We see Cloud, Barrett, Red, Kate Sith all wearing their stage play costumes, and I'm wondering if these stage play costumes are going to be some of the unlockable costumes that we get for the main game, because they look sick. Cloud's in particular looks like something out of, you know, Final Fantasy VI or one of the previous older Final Fantasies. He looks so cool. And so does Barrett. He's got like this demonic armor, and so does Red 13. It looks sick. And then I feel stupid, but one of the women we see in the trailer performing, I swear to God, it's Jessie. It looks like Jessie. She's got the face, she's got the hair, the ponytail. Am I going nuts, or is this just someone who happens to look like Jessie? Because now I'm questioning what timeline are we looking at here, because she's presumed dead in Zack's timeline, and we did see her die in the main timeline. So this might just be a random woman that looks like Jessie, but leave your thoughts in the comments down below, because that really tripped me out. We also get some very intimate moments between Cloud and Aerith. I'm pretty sure this is what's leading up to that Gold Saucer date. We see more of Vincent. Again, everyone's in that battle pose because he's popping out of that coffin. They don't know if he's a bad guy or not. We also see Bugenhagen, Red 13, and Cloud in that Nibelheim flashback where everything is burning. Sephiroth is there. So I think it's one of those moments where Bugenhagen somehow unlocks a part of Cloud's memory and they're able to go back and revisit that section of what happened. And of course, it's very eerie and Sephiroth just looks mad scary. We also do see the date between Cloud and Aerith at the Gold Saucer. It's very brief, but we do see the fireworks in the background, and I'm very curious to see what dialogue is going to happen there. I don't think it's going to be the happy-go-lucky stuff. I think Aerith knows what's coming, and she's going to try and prepare Cloud for what's going to happen in the future. Of course, we do see Aerith performing in the play herself. We also see Tifa, Aerith, and Yuffie performing in this really big dance number, which is going to be super exciting to watch. We get more of Sid. This time he's in the tiny Bronco with Yuffie, and they're flying out of Rocket Town. Again, Sid looks fantastic. I'm super happy with his design. Vincent as well. They both look exactly how, you know, my child brain saw them. So it's really cool to see that. And then we do see Zack talking to Aerith. Of course, she's passed out, but she's back at her home with Elmira. So I'm very curious to see what's going to go on in Zack's timeline. They're setting up a lot of stuff. And then our final shot of the trailer is Aerith in what appears to be the forgotten capital, the forgotten city, and there are black feathers falling all around her, and it's hard to make out in the trailer, but it looks like the whispers are also flying around her. These, big smoke monsters, they look a little different, but I'm pretty sure that's what they are. I don't think it's the feathers. It very much could be the whispers just flying around her, signifying that, yeah, Sephiroth is on his way, because again, we did see Sephiroth absorb the whispers, and they're presumably at his control now. So that is obviously leading to a very big moment in the game that it might confirm that, yeah, we're gonna see that specific sad, horrible moment play out in Rebirth. Now, before we end the video, we gotta look at the release of Rebirth, and realistically, how many more trailers do we have left? And my personal guess is 1. And I come to the decision of 1 because if we look at all of the trailers that have been released this year for Rebirth, they've all been spaced out by 3 months. The first one was in June at Summer Game Fest, the second was 3 months later in September at State of Play, and now tonight, 3 months later in December, we got that third trailer at the Game Awards. So Rebirth is out in less than 3 months, a little over 2 months to be exact. So there's not really enough time to release 2 more trailers. So I think there's 1 trailer left. It's most likely going to be the launch trailer. And if you're new to my channel, I do have a rule when it comes to launch trailers that pertain to Square Enix games, in particular Final Fantasy VII Remake's trilogy. And that rule is we do not watch launch trailers. Why? Because they usually have massive spoilers in them, which is astonishing. I look back at Final Fantasy VII Remake. I remember the morning that launch trailer came out, I went online and everyone said, do not watch this trailer, avoid it at all costs. So I did. I played 7 Remake, I beat it, and then afterwards, I watched the trailer and I was stunned at how many third act spoilers were in that launch trailer. The specific moment between Barrett and Sephiroth in the president's office was in that trailer. And if I had watched that trailer and saw that moment before I saw it in the game, it would have completely nullified how I felt. When I saw that moment playing the game, my jaw dropped, I dropped my controller, and I was so lost and heartbroken at what I was seeing. And again, I also would recommend that you guys also avoid that launch trailer if you're looking to avoid big, massive potential spoilers, because no one wants to have anything spoiled. And I know there might be some people saying, well, this is a remake, we already know what's going to happen. True, we already know the big story points, but it's those little things in between the story points that are going to be different that could be potentially spoiled. But with that being said, that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of this trailer. If there was anything that I missed or got wrong or misconstrued, you can also leave those in the comments down below. Let me know how you guys feel. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.